Okay. The last short one before we go into the ones that were scheduled, the major ones for tonight, that I don't want to give short shrift to, has to do with this extraordinary story of the Volkswagen German automobile. You really have to take your hat off, your shirt off, your shoes, your socks. It's staggering. First of all, you should all understand, that's the largest automobile company. That's the dominant industrial juggernaut, really, in Germany, and it has been for a very long time. Volkswagen in Germany, Volks is people, Wagen is vehicle. It's like, in English, it should be called the people's car. But because of the Cold War, we couldn't possibly in America have something called the people's car. It would have been, especially if it was painted red, it would have been too much. So we held on to the German name, which Americans can't pronounce anyway. So we couldn't handle that, so it became the VW, because of the two letters, we got that. So it's VW. Okay, so VW. What did they do? Just to remind you, they inserted into the automobile a specialized piece of computer software that managed to give a phony result as to how much pollution was coming out of the car from the back, an exhaust pipe, a gizmo that would cheat, would give a phony low result of pollution when it was subjected to the normal inspector's tests, whereas when you actually went on the road and drove with it, it actually gave out much, much more pollution. And they got caught when a number of people here in the United States, but also elsewhere, had a really exciting idea for an inspector. Here it goes. Ready? Smart, these folks are. Maybe we should check how the emissions go when the car is actually on the road, not just in the lab. Just a thought. Some genius, really, went to Harvard or something, had this, did it, and they went and they said, wow, it's much worse on the road than it showed up in the lab. And they got caught. And so the first admission, which happened about a month or so ago, 11 million cars, of which I think 500,000 or somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million are here in the United States, diesel engines. When the story begins, it's just diesel engines. It turns out it wasn't just diesel engines. It was that they had only caught them at that point on the diesel engines. Since then, since we don't have a lot of time tonight, I'm here to tell you they got caught again, and it was happening for the gasoline engines also. So VW did what? VW produced millions of cars, which it advertised with two basic themes. We Germans are engineering geniuses, and we have produced the best car engine ever. It is spectacular in moving the vehicle, and because we are such geniuses, it doesn't pollute. All the other people either have a car that runs, but it pollutes everything, or they avoid pollution, but their car has no zip. We have zip in our car. It's a German word, Fahrvergnügen. It's a German word that means you have the enjoyment of driving enjoyment. Fahren is the German word for driving, basically, and Vergnügen is enjoyment. So you get the enjoyment of a car because we're so good at it. It was all, to use a technical German term, bullshit. All bullshit, but it worked. For those of you who don't want me to use impolite words, I'll change it. It was all advertising. Advertising is, if you don't want to say bullshit, because it's impolite, you say advertising. Bus driver, transportation engineer. Bullshit, Advertising. They advertised a zippy car that didn't pollute. They were right about the zippy. It's zippy. It pollutes like crazy. 11 million cars, right? People die of asthma, emphysema, children, old people, people with damaged immune systems, all of the things. We're not fooling around here. We're talking huge amounts of pollution into societies. The worst of it was the largest number of these cars were in Germany. So you can see they had a special feeling for the German people out of which they come. They really whacked them first and hardest. Second were the Japanese, their allies in World War II. Strange. And then we come third or fourth down the lines. It's bizarre. And they got rid of their chairman, as if. And they're having, you gotta love this, they're having an intense internal investigation to find out who did this. I know. I can save you time and money. No decision about putting such a thing in a car is made by anybody who isn't crazy without checking that they're superior, since their job and career will be over in 2 seconds if this gets out. This is amazing. Now, I told you last month or the month before when it first broke that this is not the first time this happened. VW did this even though the Ford Econoline van back in the 1990s got caught doing exactly the same thing. So the car industry knows this game. The inspectors from the governments know the game. You have to love that it took decades since the last time this was found for an inspector to discover that maybe we should check to see whether what we know they have done in the past, they just might be doing again. You can't. You cannot make this up. Now, what is it about? This is a culture, folks. This is a culture of corporate. This is when we run everything like a business. That's what that's business. It's good business. They did very well in the last 9 or 10 or 12 years, VW. Very well. They have a big program in China where they're producing cars, et cetera, et cetera. They're doing very, very well. They use the ecology movement. Great. We'll tell a story about the idea that the story should be true. It didn't occur to them. It's good. It's good to advertise your car as being protective of nature. We respect the environment. What? It's all bullshit. Excuse me. It's advertising. They did advertise whatever they could think of to sell the car, which is the job of advertising. And they produced these disasters. And now, the last step. They've offered all Americans who possess one of these cars $1,000. And they hope that Americans will accept $1,000 per car to look the other way and hope it's not too long before they get caught again.